It's Yada Yahowah, Prologue. Prelude. A conversation with God. We are embarking on life's greatest adventure. It will take us to a place few have experienced, which is surprising considering the unfathomable riches we will encounter along the way. Our path is so far removed from the road mankind has become accustomed to traveling. For all but a score of the past 2,500 years, no one, not a single solitary soul, has attempted this voyage through words, places, and time. By continuing, we will meet God. Evidence and reason will lead us to Him. We will come to know Yahweh, appreciate what He is offering, and understand exactly what He expects from us in return. We are headed to the seventh dimension, well past the observable constraints of Euclidean space. Along the way, should you accept His offer, you will become immortal. Our souls will be perfected. We will be adopted into our Heavenly Father's family. We will be enriched, enlightened, and empowered, liberated from the control and influence of man and the constraints of the physical realm. Ultimately, you will know the truth, and it will set you free. While the rewards are extraordinary, there is no fee. Our journey to heaven will cost you nothing. Even the time we invest along the way will be returned. That is not to say this will be easy or that we will not be asked to relinquish things many hold dear. Religion and politics are notable examples. These human contrivances preclude honest investigation and impede our progress. They confuse our thinking and distort our perspective, making understanding difficult, if not impossible. Although it is the antithesis of what we have been led to believe, God hates religion. His foremost goal is to liberate us from the oppressive nature of its propensity to mislead and confuse, to subjugate and control. Rather than bringing the faithful to God, religion is the most pervasive obstacle blocking the path. As your guide to the promised land, you should know that I am not a prophet, although the prophets spoke of me. The evidence is prolific and irrefutable because God wants you to consider what I have discovered by translating His Torah, prophets, and Psalms. Should that not seem credible at this juncture, do not be concerned. Everything written upon these pages was ascertained by closely examining and carefully considering Yahweh's published and public witness to humankind, albeit with a worthy assist from the Ruach Kodesh, set-apart spirit. I share this because the textual basis for these translations and resulting insights are readily available in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. They collectively provide the underlying text supporting everything you are going to read. And this means that you are in the position to validate every word and insight. Over these past 22 years, I have discovered and published far more than most scholars, but I am not a theologian. I am anti-religious and apolitical. As a devoted student and teacher, I am opposed to the errant approach of academia. I am not among those who claim to be a Messiah or the Son of God, although I know who was afforded these titles. I do not seek fame, fortune, or a following. I eschew accolades, and I am immune to threats. Other than your company and curiosity, I want nothing from you. This is a labor of love. I do not profit monetarily from these books or radio programs. Even your response is entirely up to you. 22 years ago, when I hesitantly and naively embarked on this adventure with Yahweh, I did not know His name. I had previously been religious, but because of the irrational nature of the Christian faith, I had discarded it and become an agnostic. Although it was obvious that God wanted me to do as I have done, I have long considered myself unqualified and irrelevant. As a consequence, I wrote anonymously under the pen name Yada for well over a decade. Looking back over this journey, and by comparing myself to others Yahweh has chosen to work alongside, I realized that it was largely because I was once political and religious, and had rejected both, that made my candidacy appealing. When God spoke out against these institutions, His concerns resonated within my soul. But more than anything else, the reason we have worked together so successfully over the years is because, when others were not interested in knowing the truth, I was willing to go where His words led, no matter the cost or consequence. While that may have been enough considering the dearth of qualified candidates and complete void of responsive individuals, especially among the chosen people, I share something with Yahweh's beloved, David, which God likely found serviceable, something He will also value in you. I prize evidence, and reason over opinions or beliefs. And as was the case with the psalmist, I understand the importance of context in forming logical conclusions. I prefer this more thoughtful approach to the ill-conceived and half-baked notions of believers which result in foreseeable disasters for misguided individuals, institutions, and nations. Like His chosen one, I love knowing and live to understand. I thrive on the discoveries which can be gleaned by making informed connections, especially given the opportunity to share the ensuing insights. As a result of having invested 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, over the past 22 years translating Yahweh's Torah, teaching, His Nabi, prophets, and Mizmor, Psalms, you will find a considerably more complete and accurate presentation. To accomplish this, we will explore the Dead Sea Scrolls to ascertain the truth from the most credible text. In the process, we will learn if God can be known rather than believed. Along with these amplified translations, you will encounter commentary which is offered to broaden our understanding of the words God inspired his prophets to scribe for our benefit. As a result of this study, you will be exposed to many hundreds of profound insights regarding Yahowah, most of which are presented here for the first time. Many are gems as valuable as life itself. This is Yahowah's story, in his words, the way he wants it to be told from beginning to end. Therefore, it is paramount for us to recognize that Yahowah is our Creator's one and only name, now and forever. Comprised of 4 vowels, it is pronounced Yahowah. His name, by his own declaration, is based upon the Hebrew verb haya, which means to exist. With it, God answers our most fundamental questions: is there a God, and if so, who is he? The proper pronunciation of Yahowah, a name which was written 7,000 times by the hands of the prophets he inspired, is further clarified by his Torah, teaching and guidance. This exceedingly well-known title leaves only the Yod, which is incontrovertible in its pronunciation, to vocalize independently. Therefore, between Haya and Torah, the mystery is solved, making an accurate transliteration of YHWH indispensable and irrefutable. 13. This is so straightforward and simple, those who would claim that God's name cannot be pronounced are either inexcusably ignorant or willfully dishonest. And based upon Yahowah's testimony, those who would suggest that God does not care what you call him would be wrong. Nothing is more essential to our survival. If you do not know Yahowah's name, you do not know him. And if you do not know him, he does not know you. His name not only properly identifies him, but it also completely dissociates God from every religion, all of which call him everything but Yahowah. Let's be clear, contrary to the most popular beliefs, Jesus is not God nor is Allah. Shiva is not God either, nor is Hashem or the Lord. Over 5 billion people are currently misled, most deliberately. The Christian New Testament, the Jewish Talmud, and the Islamic Quran are strictly human endeavors. They are inaccurate and counterproductive. The Apostle Paul, Rabbi Akiba, and the Messenger Muhammad were deplorable, tragically misguided megalomaniacs. These men should be exposed and condemned, not venerated. And we will do so. Now that I have your attention, and now that you know we are not here to be politically correct, to pretend, or to garner popular support, let's move on to the verb which precedes Yahowah's name in our title, Yada Yahowah. Yada means, to know in a relational sense, to recognize, to acknowledge, and to understand. Therefore, Yada Yahowah was written to Yada, know Yahowah as he revealed himself to humankind. Using evidence and reason, we will prove beyond any doubt that it is possible to actually Yada Yahowah. No faith will be required. Believing will become a liability. 14. In a world awash in the stench of religion, where God is mischaracterized, Yahowah proves his existence beyond any doubt throughout his Torah and prophets. In the process, he conclusively demonstrates that he authored the testimony we are going to consider. He did this in the best possible way, especially considering that his prime objective is for us to get to know him so that we can choose to develop a personal, family-oriented relationship with him. This goal necessitates free will. And that means Yahowah cannot make the choice to ignore him, impossible, which omnipresence and undeniable proof of his existence would do. Since you are likely wondering how Yahowah conclusively demonstrated that he authored the testimony known as the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, while at the same time proving that his witness can be trusted, the answer to both is prophecy. And that is why this book of books will focus on God's predictive statements. By accurately reporting in our past what will happen in our future, and by committing these specific prognostications to writing centuries prior to their fulfillment, Yahowah demonstrated that he is unconstrained by time. As is the case with the eternal nature of light, God is capable of experiencing the past and future as if they were the present. Therefore, since he has already witnessed that which has yet to occur in the ordinary flow of time, God is not predicting what might happen, he is instead reporting on what he has already seen. If Yahowah got so much as one very specific and highly improbable prophecy right, we would be foolish to ignore what he had to say. But rather than one prediction, he committed thousands of these revelations to writing, all of which were memorialized in the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, with most affirmed throughout the Dead Sea Scrolls. 15. The ongoing chance fulfillment of these specific and highly unlikely predictions is less likely than winning a 1,000,000-to-1 lottery grand prize with a single ticket 1,000 times in a row. Yahowah is so confident regarding his predictions, he says that we are free to reject him should we find a single error. Accordingly, while we will focus on God's predictive testimony, do not assume that prophecy will monopolize our time. I say this because with every prediction Yahowah teaches us something important, often profound. And since these instructions are coming from God, the guidance he is providing, along with his prophetic revelations, becomes vastly more important than the fact he can reliably foretell our future. Speaking of time, one of the more intriguing nuances of Hebrew, the language of revelation, is that there are no past, present, or future tenses. Therefore, as is the case with the inherent properties of light, Hebrew verbs are unrestrained in time. In this way, the language itself explains the method behind such prophecies. Considering the flow of time, Yahowah's prophets often look back to a period prior to recorded history, presenting the distant past with the same level of accuracy and detail as the present and future. But that is not all that can be uniquely derived from this remarkable language. You will soon discover that Hebrew verbs feature a relational stem, and many are written in a volitional mood. This means that a connection is being developed between the subject and object of each discussion, and that the message being conveyed is subject to free will. These are some of the elements which work in concert to give Yahowah's revelation greater authenticity. God made these statements to demonstrate his existence and prove his authorship so that we might come to trust his testimony. 16 His message to us was revealed to present the conditions and benefits associated with his covenant. Throughout his Torah, teaching and Nabi, prophets, Yahowah reveals who he is, what he wants, and what he is willing to offer us in return for our respect and appreciation. These things known, please do not assume that this is a religious book. It is not. The God of the Torah, prophets, and Psalms collectively and known as the Old Testament, is anti-religious. His animosity toward Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and socialist secular humanism, is extreme and unambiguous. More than anything man conceived, God hates religion most of all, every religion without exception. Walking away from these corrupt human institutions is the lone prerequisite for participating in the covenant relationship. This is perhaps the greatest of all ironies. As an interesting aside, if you are an agnostic, God's complete disassociation from religion may eliminate most of your objections to him. You will quickly discover that the idiocy you attribute to mankind's belief in the gods of their own making is invalid, because it has nothing in common with Yahowah's witness. In fact, most of those who have benefited from the testimony which is set out before you were formerly agnostics. It is much easier for someone who is open-minded to examine evidence logically than it is for those plagued by religious beliefs. And ultimately, the case Yahowah makes on his behalf is rationally irrefutable. It all comes down to this: humans are complex creatures and often malfunction. The Torah is our operator's manual.